Hello everybody and welcome to Amulet Talk. As usual, unstructured and not premeditated, and with a little musing, which I also class as Amulet FAQ. So answers people's suspicions and doubts and questions and wonderings. So I was just looking at this Pra Somdej Pim Kaiser Somdej from Luang Por Pae, Wat Pikul Tong. This particular one is has from the year 2519 BE, Lai Sen edition, which has his signature embossed on the rear face. So, firstly, let's take a close-up here, and take the laser pointer. I was just looking at some of the features here. You can see no neck, there's just a space between the shoulders and the Siarn, the arms bowl shaped head. And here, this surface here is a plane, meaning flattened and elongated, and is tilted towards the front at an angle this way. So from where the neck should be down to the front of the chest here, which protrudes, you can see it's flattened. This should be all pim from this block press, should have that feature. It's the pim. The pim means the features of pressing it. The depth may not all be the same when they use the hand pressing method, because the pressure of the hand as the monk gets tired, or the Luxit devotee helping gets tired during the pressing. Some amulets will be deeper than others. Now to look from the pim, the Muon San, not the pim, just the content, you can see these little black dots and flecks, and within the Muon San you can also see here a very dry hardening and almost a smooth shiny effect on the most protruding parts of the surface, which is where it comes into contact with the clothing or its case or the clothing, and with sweat and with abrasion of the clothing, it becomes hardened and smoothed off, as you can see where it protrudes. Otherwise you can see this porosity. Here on the flat surfaces you can see the raising of Pongputakun powders raising up. You can see some slight change in tonality here. That's due to exposure to moisture and dryness. Different parts of the surface are exposed to different atmospheric conditions. And then let's say we take this one up now, and we can see that see this browning from the white here, where the surface protrudes most and is less flat and protrudes out. It starts to take on a less smooth texture and a more crinkly, dried texture. Loupe, it's like cracks where the contraction of the Muon San, of the hardening of the powders as the moisture dries up over the years and aging, it pulls together and causes small crevices. But here, this browning, so you can see the different changes in tonality to check out these features and to look for them in this pim from this year. But saying that, although you can see this present in this pim, and you can look for the other examples of this pim, not all owners of this amulet may have kept it under the same atmospheric conditions. And so just because this has the brownish ochre yellowing here on the surface, does not mean that if you don't see that present on an otherwise perfectly authentic looking example of this particular model, doesn't mean it's fake, because it might have been exposed to different atmospheric conditions. And so it's not a fixed rule, but it's one thing you can look for that will show you. But there are no fixed rules. There are just general rules, and then from having authenticated and seen many examples, having seen real ones, many, to see the slight variations, you can become sure enough to give an expert opinion and authenticate that it is real from the PIM, if it fits with the block press and the features of the design, or if it doesn't, from the Muon San content, the little ingredients you can see present poking out through the Muon San, the aging and the drying of it to see if it matches the age compared with other authentic models, and so on. Very tiny little details, tamnit, such as the visible thumb here and the visible forefinger, and very small details like this. So that's a little bit about how some of the basic cornerstones and keystones of how you examine and authenticate amulets for you to study, and in this case using the front face of a 2519BE Pra Somdej, Luang Por Pae, Wat Pikul Tong. You see the armpits, the angles, the depth, how high they are in relation to the chest. And so there you go. Different amulets, you can use different measuring stones, but those are some basic measuring stones, especially with sacred powder amulets or Pra Somdej, Kaiser, Occult, Siarn Badtr, Luang Por Pae, Wat Pikul Tong, 2519BE, Lai Sen Signature Edition. Now, let's take a look at the Muon San. Enjoy. You can see the front face. Slowly zoom in. This is a only 8 megapixel camera. And the rear face. Slowly zoom in. You can just see the Pong Vised special powders in the base. And here it is, the Pong Vised in the base of the amulet. And here we can see how the most protrusive surfaces of the relief of the front face of the amulet have very dry and porous and very hard, dried, aged surface features. And in the ridges where it's closer to the inner surface, you can see Pong Putakun rising up, which is like a milky haze on the surface of the amulet. And we can see all the tiny pieces of patat and bailan powder and other elemental substances which have been added within the Muon San of the sacred powder clay of this amulet.